how their prizes come out, because the prizes could tell a big tale here, specifically for Michael. As
one Frogadier's prize.
Well, one Frogadier being prized is never good, but I'm more interested in seeing if the Giratina break would be prized for Zachary Bokhari here.
Yeah,
as that's going to be the real important card here. A Alolan Vulpix prize with a Guzma, Sudowoodo, and it looks like he dodged a big one.
That's clean.
Yeah, pretty much I would accept almost any prizes besides the Giratina in this matchup.
Absolutely. Oh, he started with it even.
He made sure to mention it. That's how important it is. He does not mind it being in play as early as turn 1. It's that important. And sure enough, Zachary Bokhari will be drawing his card from the mulligan from Michael, and Michael will be starting the game off. He starts off with a level ball. Level ball will be finding him a second Froakie here, but first he's going to be looking through the deck to make sure that he doesn't have anything too awful prized. And he'll notice that he has a Frogadier prize, but beyond that, that's about it.
Yeah, he's going to just check to see if everything is there for him. He sees that he's got the Staryu, which means that potentially he can start working on that Starmie, get that out early before this Staryu can get sniped off. That's something that you need to worry about in this matchup. The low hit points of the Staryu means that Alolan Ninetales GX would be able to take that out very easily with just the double colorless energy.
Yeah, he does play a Staryu line or a Starmie line in this Greninja deck. But keep in mind, by the way, that all he had was a single Froakie, and he does pass. Zachary's deck isn't exactly the most aggressive, but still, this is not an exactly exciting start here from Mike, especially against the Giratina promo already on the bench from Zach.
That's right. Zachary on his turn now. He's got the Ultra Ball in hand, a lot of energy cards, and of course, starting off with that Alolan Vulpix is going to be fantastic for him. He's got Beacon available to him, which means that he can start to search out some of his evolutions if he chooses to go for Tapu Lele into Bridget, and really just get himself set up here. So we'll see what he decides to go with.
Yeah, that Alolan Vulpix is by far going to be his best starting Pokemon that he can have, and I mean, good for him because he plays 4 of it. Now, the Ultra Ball can find him any Pokemon he chooses to find inside of his deck. It looks like he's eyeing a Vulpix, wants to get multiples of it in play. Pretty much any of these choices are fine with the exception of an evolution because Beacon can find it.
That's right. He's going to look over, just try to see what else is in his prize cards here. It looks like Bridget would be his best line here after using Tapu Lele GX's Wonder Tag, and that is what he's going to go with. He gives himself an option with a free retreater of the Tapu Koko. That's going to come in pretty handy when he has Guzma plays. If he wants to use the active Pokemon as his attacker that turn, he has free retreat to just exchange right back into play after that switching effect. So giving himself a lot of options here, and this is a pretty dream start for him with that Giratina on the bench.
Absolutely. He finds himself a complete bench by the end of his first turn, and he still gets to Beacon before it's all said and done. Zach has an ideal start, but more importantly, Mike is facing down this Giratina, and I really can't stress how important that is. Mike's going to have to find a strategy that's going to deal with this Giratina in the long run, and having to deal with it from turn 1 on is just very brutal.
Yeah, we see the Aqua Patch coming down for Zachary. He's got multiple energies down for his Vulpix, and now he gets to use Beacon. He can start to find some of his evolutions. He can also find the Octillery, which will be able to get him some cards and just continue this consistent approach that he's had over this opening turn here.
Yeah, a big reason to play that Aqua Patch is because your opponent usually ends your hand away after you Beacon. That tends to be the most common supporter played after a Beacon, so you kind of want to get rid of that Aqua Patch. Get the use out of it while you still can. And that is going to be the end of Zach's turn here. Will Mike have a big answer for him? It seems like he starts off with a Starmie and a Splash Energy, has a Dive Ball.
Yeah, he played his opening turn out pretty slow, didn't show very much. This is because he had the evolution of the Starmie and the Dive Ball to find himself a Frogadier, which meant that he'd be able to get everything that he needed without playing a supporter. So there's no reason to just start using supporters if you already have what you want for your second turn.
Now that Frogadier will come to the bottom of the deck. It seems to be the ideal target. There can't be a better one. As yeah, I mean, Frogadier on turn 2 is exactly what you want to be finding here because Water Duplicates is going to find him the other 2 Frogadiers still in the deck.
Interesting. He had the N in his hand and he chose not to play it. It looks like he doesn't want to interrupt the Beacon and he'd rather just use his Water Duplicates here.
That is an interesting play. But Mike is going to be using his Water Duplicates and finishing his turn here. He was just looking through the rest of his deck, seeing if he could scout any other prizes beyond the Frogadier. And that is going to be the end of it. Zachary will be drawing his card to start his turn as soon as he cuts Mike's deck. And now Zach drawing his card. He does have his Octillery still and the Alola Ninetales that he found through Beacon last turn. Sure enough, plays both of them.
Yep. Zach's asking how many cards are in your hand. He hasn't seen a supporter card out of Michael, so he really doesn't want to use N here just yet. So he might just use Abyssal Hand, see if he can find a better supporter for the turn, and might opt to just use Sycamore.
You know, I can actually really see Zach retreating the Alola Ninetales like he's about to do and attack with the Tapu Koko. At this point is the perfect time to attack with Tapu Koko's Flying Flip because your opponent already has all of their potential Greninjas in play. You want to bring that Greninja down to 150 damage, 150 hit points after it Break evolves into the Greninja Break.
Right.
Because at that point, you will be able to one-hit KO them with your Alola Ninetales. Very important play here by Zach, and it looks like he was absolutely prepared for this kind of a setup here from Mike.
Yeah, we saw Zachary had a Rough Seas in his hand. That's a card that he uses to heal his own Alola Ninetales, but that would start to heal Michael as well, so he doesn't want to give that to him. He'd rather just get this damage onto the board and make sure that he is ready for those knockouts from the Alola Ninetales.
And we have to remember these deck lists are public. They're posted on the Pokemon.com website, which means that Zach, if he's done any type of research whatsoever, he does know that there's no Rough Seas here in Mike's deck.
Yeah.
So he knows that this play is very safe.
Michael now playing down a Splash Energy onto a bench Frogadier, and he did have a supporter. He had that Sycamore in his hand there. So he's going to find himself 7 cards now, and he wants to find some Greninjas so that he can potentially get some breaks onto the board, but it looks like just one is going to be all he has.
One Greninja so far. And he does add that Froakie to the bench, which will eventually be a Frogadier as the game progresses. Most of the time, Zachary's very comfortable with just doing one Flying Flip here. He doesn't need that second one whatsoever. So at this point, I would expect to see some big time knockouts here out of Zach from here on out.
Looking now, Zachary at his discard pile. He's got the damage that he wants down onto these Pokemon, so if he's able to find himself another Aqua Patch Energy, he'd be in a great spot. It looks like he doesn't have another water in his discard pile, though, so we'll see what he decides to go with. He might choose to start sniping some Pokemon with his Alolan Ninetales, or just use another Tapu Koko spread this turn.
Yeah, the Tapu Koko spread would at least affect the Froakie. I mean, obviously 20 damage is still relevant, but it's a lot less relevant than the original 20 damage, so that's something we want to keep in mind. But either way, that end will draw both players a fresh hand of 6, and things could change depending on what they draw. So at this point, Zach drawing 6 total cards, doesn't seem to be drawing any energies.
And this is a point where I'd like to see Zachary use the Ultra Ball. Get rid of some cards that won't be useful in the matchup. Choice Band never comes into play here for him, so he could start to thin out his hand a little bit and avoid finding some cards that he doesn't want.
Yeah, absolutely. That Choice Band at its worst in this matchup. The Tapu Koko will be retreating, and it looks like we're going to be seeing an Ice Blade dealing enough damage to this Frogadier in order to knock it out. Splash Energy brings it right back to his hand.
Yep, he's going to take the first knockout of this game here, removes the Splash Energy Frogadier, which means that the Frogadier goes back up into his hand. That can be played back down onto the Froakie in this turn, but removing that Splash Energy can be pretty vital. That means that you're not returning a Greninja Break, you're just returning a Frogadier.
Speaking of Greninja Break, there's that Greninja Break that we expect to see out of Mike's deck here. But remember, it only has 150 hit points remaining, which means that it will be knocked out by Alolan Ninetales attack. And it doesn't get its use out of its ability because of Giratina's ability to shut off all break abilities. So what exactly can we really expect Mike to do here? This is a really tough matchup for him.
Yeah, Mike's plan going into this matchup, he either has to remove the Giratina or start to use Moonlight Slash along with the use of Choice Band to potentially two-hit knockout these Alolan Ninetales, but it's so difficult for him, especially at this kind of stage. Well, he does find the Choice Bands here, so that will start to soften up this Alolan Ninetales for him if he chooses.
Yeah, but is it going to be enough? That's the real big question.
It gets dangerous when you start to put damage onto a Alolan Ninetales. This means that Ice Path GX will be available to Zachary. If he uses a card like Guzma, he can move that damage onto, say, a Frogadier and really just clean himself off, get himself right back where he needs, and start to affect Michael's board.
There is a Ultra Ball finding another Greninja here, so we are starting to swarm this field with Greninjas, but with them still taking damage or having damage on them, and Rough Seas nowhere in sight, specifically because Zachary won't be playing it. It's really tough. It really is very tough here for Michael, as he does just about the only thing he can do, and that's Moonlight Slash for 110 damage, which will mean a 2-hit knockout against Zachary. But in the meantime, all Zachary has to do is attach an energy and knock out this this Greninja break.
Yeah, Zachary's just going to look over his options here. The safe play would be if he potentially had a Guzma, he could use his Ice Path GX, move that damage over to one of the Greninjas on the bench. The only Greninja actually on the bench there. He could clear that off of the board and leave himself safe, basically taking away everything Michael did last turn. He also has the option here if he wants to. He can attack straight into this Greninja break and remove it. All of those Pokemon would be coming back into Michael's hand, though.
So many great options. It's hard to decide which one you want to go with, as the Ultra Ball is played here by Zachary.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he just chooses nothing. He probably doesn't want to have any extra cards in his hand, so that his Abyssal hand from the Octillery would be able to draw him into something that he prefers.
Indeed. Zachary does miss with that Ultra Ball. Still has a 5-card hand, though. Decides to play that Floatstone onto Octillery, or at least potentially. Oh, takes it back. All right, Choice Band onto Tapu Koko. And yeah, at this point, he wants to play his hand down so he can draw with Abyssal Hand as many cards as possible.
Yeah, he's just looking at the best way to do this for himself. Might be attaching to, yeah, he's got the Floatstone there for his Alolan Ninetales, can have some access to free retreat if he chooses.
Is he just trying to avoid attaching that double colorless energy to the active Ninetales?
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's deciding to do there. He knows that that Michael plays the Jirachi that could remove the special energy card, so maybe he's a little worried about that. But
maybe, but
yeah, if he is going to go with a Blizzard Edge, it's nice to have a double colorless energy. You can just use that to pay the cost of the attack.
Yep. So it does look like he finally attaches that double colorless energy,
but
and
he
then
did
Abyssal
find
Hands.
Guzma, so he might be able to pull off that Ice Path play that I was speaking about.
We'll have to wait and see if he goes for it. He's eyeing the Guzma.
Yeah, I certainly think that this is the way to go here. He can pull up this Greninja. He has free retreat from the Tapu Koko, and then he can clear all of this damage off of himself, also taking out a fantastic knockout here on the Greninja.
A big-time play here by Zach, as he does find that Guzma, knocks out that Greninja, and uses his GX attack about as wisely as he can, removing every bit of damage away from his Ninetales, leaving his board relatively clean here against Mike's field full of Greninjas that are just damaged enough for them to be in danger.
Yeah, he's just got that one Greninja break there now that is in knockout range. And now Michael really needs to start finding more pieces to the puzzle. He's going to need to find cards like his Rescue Stretcher and some Greninjas so that he can start to rebuild onto this board and find Greninja break. Because right now, his benched Greninjas or potential Greninjas in Froakies and Frogadier, they aren't in range of being knocked out by Alolan Ninetales. He would have to see another Tapu Koko spread come into play.
Right, and I mean, this Tapu Koko doesn't have to come in, doesn't have to become an active Pokemon on this turn, right? He can wait until another Froakie comes down. He can wait until this Greninja break gets knocked out.
Oh, he's got plenty of time.
Yeah, there's absolutely no rush for this Tapu Koko to use its flying flip again, but he will be using it at some point just to kind of recycle what he's already done over the last couple of turns.
Yeah. Michael is going to wisely use that Rescue Stretcher, grabbing himself a Frogadier. Able to continue to build onto his board here. He needs to keep all these threats in order to combat the Alolan Ninetales and the pressure that it brings. It brings so much pressure so easily as well. You see that Zachary hasn't really struggled to do what he wants to do here. Just attaching and evolving has been able to get himself into a commanding lead here in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he had such an ideal start. He literally started with the Giratina on the bench.
That's right.
That's about as perfect as a start can get here for Zachary. And his deck hasn't really slowed down since. He's gotten, the turn 1 Beacon into multiple evolutions on stage 2, or on turn 2. And things have just been going very smoothly for him. Mike, on the other hand, has also been getting his evolutions out about as smoothly as you can hope to do so in with the Greninja deck. And while that's usually good enough to beat just about every deck in this format, if your Greninja deck can get out the way Mike's deck has this game, it's a totally different case when your opponent has his own Giratina in play.
Right. Looking over for what Zach might potentially be looking for in the future turns, he doesn't need much. As long as he keeps attaching energy, he's okay. But maybe his one field blower would be really big for him. If he was able to remove these choice bands, then his Ninetales would no longer be worried about being 2-hit knocked out, which is really good for him. He'd be able to have so many turns of fantastic attacks from his Alolan Ninetales.
Well, either way, Greninja Break did deal another 110 damage. We've seen this turn before out of Mike. Will Zachary finally knock out this Greninja Break? Seems to be the case.
Yeah, he's got VS Seeker, so he can find himself a supporter of his choice there, from the discard pile. He's got cards like Guzma, where he could potentially remove the Greninja on the bench. That one has no splash energy on it, so all of those cards would be gone, and that looks like the play that he's going to take here.
Promotes the Tapu Koko with free retreat.
Abyssal Hand's going to get him a free card. He's found a Rough Seas. He's never going to play that, though.
That's about as dead a card as you can have in this game, as you're never playing that. And here it is, Blizzard Edge, dealing 160 damage, knocking out this Greninja. And again, all that's left is that Greninja Break with 20 damage on it already.
Thinking about the Rough Seas, actually, he'd be able to heal himself out of being knocked out this turn, but it would remove all that extra damage, which he was able to set up this Greninja Break to be knocked out. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for him.
Right, that 20 damage really is critical. And it's just very clever of him to be able to take down these Greninjas before they turn into Greninja Breaks. At that point, they become much more difficult to knock out. But in the meantime, I mean, they're just vulnerable enough that the Alolan Ninetales can really do whatever it likes and knock them out in one hit. So the Greninja Break is still at 150 hit points, which means a single Blizzard Edge will knock it out, and he's perfectly happy with that. He just wants to avoid having a Greninja Break with 170 hit points on it.
Yeah, that's right. Michael is forced to use all of these valuable resources, rescue stretchers and super rods, trying to get all of these Greninja pieces back, which generally he'd be able to get back with splash energy. Zachary's just doing a great job of playing around that card.
Michael plays with splash energy, then versus Seekers for an N and ends. Michael will be drawing a full 6, while Zachary will only be drawing 3. But because of Octillery's Abyssal Hand ability, the damage that N would normally be doing here is very much mitigated.
Yeah, and Zachary's still in a really great spot here. Even though he's only going to see 3 cards, the only card that he needs to find is an Energy or an Aqua Patch that will be able to give his Alolan Ninetales on the bench enough energy to get a knockout here on the Greninja Break. And he also has Abyssal Hand so that he can continue to draw. Basically everything is going in Zachary's favor here. Now Zachary looking over his hand. He does have that Aqua Patch, so energies are available to him. He has Tapu Lele if he wants to find a different supporter for the turn. If he wants to try to find another Guzma, if he plays a second one in his deck, he does. So he could try that option. Or he could just use Professor Sycamore here and find some more cards, maybe get more energies onto the board. If he's able to get an Aqua Patch and a double colorless energy, he'd be able to perform the attack of his Ninetales, removing 2 energy cards and still have enough to Blizzard Edge again.
All right. Zachary here plays an Ultra Ball.
Yeah, he's looking at the Alolan Vulpix here. he can start to set up his third and final attacker for the game if somehow this other Ninetales gets knocked out here. It's just a wise play to make sure that he has multiple options here. And it looks like he is going to use that Aqua Patch. This energy, I think, would be going on to the Alolan Ninetales just so that he knows that he can knock out this Greninja Break here. And Sycamore is going to find himself 7 cards.
That Sycamore is going to find him 7 new cards, which is going to allow him to bring back more and more resources. At this point, Zachary just doesn't want to run out of potential knockouts onto these Greninja Breaks. It's easier said than done, but at the same time, because Michael is struggling to get any type of pressure going towards Zachary, Zachary has a lot of turns to really build this board up for himself, and he's taking full advantage of it.
Yeah, Zachary able to find a double colorless energy. He can attach that to his Alolan Ninetales and then use that as the discarding effect if he wants to. He could also attach this to his Alolan Vulpix and start to set up another secondary attacker, but I think this is the correct play here.
It seems like this matchup plays out very favorably for Zachary as long as he plays it slow and methodical, as he's been doing. If you get carried away, if you try to take too many fast knockouts on the Greninja Break, for example, then your opponent can just eventually get a new Greninja Break with a full 170 hit points in play, and then that can really give you a lot of trouble. So at that point, Zachary may very well, the game may snowball out of control for Zachary. So what Zachary acknowledges this, and he decides to play this matchup a lot more slowly, doesn't overextend, just plays his Guzmas whenever he can in order to knock out the full hit point Pokemon while building up additional attackers. It's very slow. It's a very patient strategy by Zachary, but we're seeing just how well it pays off when you can actually pull it off.
Look at the size of Michael's hand. He has so many cards. He has teammates if he wants to go find something like Choice Band and continue this 2-hit knockout strategy. But he also has N, which might be able to slow down Zachary a bit. He was thinking about that, but of course, when Zachary has the option to use Abyssal Hand, that's never good news for him. He could be using Shadow Stitching if he wants to stop that, but then he's not doing nearly enough damage to this Alolan Ninetales GX.
All right. So what's Michael's strategy at this point? I mean, he finally has the Greninja Break with full hit points, but I mean, he's down 2 prizes, and more importantly, Zachary only needs 2 more knockouts to win. What can Michael do to avoid this kind of a loss?
I think he needs to continue to keep some pressure on. He's going to hope that on this N, he's able to find that Choice Band so that he can keep doing a lot of damage. But he also needs to make sure that Zachary doesn't do very much to him. So he's got an interesting choice here. If he's going to go with Shadow Stitching, just hope that Zachary can't find anything the rest of the game.
He doesn't really have an option against the Octillery either. That Octillery just giving him so much trouble. You can't end your opponent out of the game when your opponent just has access to, at the minimum, 5 cards in a turn.
Right. Well, Zachary did not find anything good off of those 2 cards, so if Michael does choose to use Shadow Stitching, he can stop that Abyssal Hand ability. The only problem is he's taking a lot of damage in return.
Right. And in the meantime, that Shadow Stitching really doesn't do too much in order to advance his own position, but it may very well be the only thing he can really do.
Yeah, and he sees that this is the play for himself. He just has to hope Zachary doesn't find anything. Zach draws into a Choice Band. He's got the Rough Seas, and I think this is the right play for him. He can start to heal off, and he's not in any trouble now.
Yeah, that Rough Seas very, very timely for Zachary, as now at this point, he doesn't really mind his opponent healing the damage away. He's already dealt enough damage through the Tapu Koko for him to not fear this kind of a situation from getting out of hand.
That's right. Zachary now trying to just find the last 2 prize cards. He's going to do 50 damage with Ice Blade over onto this Starmie. Although Starmie can use the Rough Seas to heal itself back down to 40 damage on it, this means that he's still set up for a good knockout. So only a Guzma then would be able to clear off the game for Zachary.
That's right. So Michael is likely going to be losing that Starmie on his next turn, which means Zachary would only need a single prize. He's still facing down a field full of Greninjas, Frogadiers, and Greninja Break, but 1 prize is much easier to achieve than 2 against these high hit point Pokemon. At this point, though, that Rough Seas may make it much more difficult for Zachary to take that final prize. We'll have to wait and see, but it is finally getting a little bit closer.
Yeah, the Rough Seas is great. It basically just makes the Shadow Stitching do nothing. Michael doesn't have choice bands, so it's only doing 10 damage a turn after you add in the Rough Seas effects. So if you want to do 10 damage while I'm sniping for 50, I think I'm feeling okay.
And keep in mind, by the way, if Zachary has access to his field blower still, Zachary can use the Rough Seas, get the final use out of it, and then field blower the Rough Seas away if he needs to. Get some sort of momentum going that way, clear the damage off from the Shadow Stitching, kind of stop all of the aggression that Mike's been doing for the last couple of turns. Because it does seem like Mike may be going for that play one more time as he plays an N and brings Zachary back down to a 2-card hand and himself back up to a 4-card hand.
Yeah, calculated risk here by Michael now using the N. He really does need to find a little more damage on his side if he wants to keep himself in this game here. Although he did get exactly what he wanted by Zachary not drawing into anything on the last N, he needs to hope that this just happens again. It's an effect of the N that he wishes didn't happen to Zachary.
Did I just see a Pokemon Center lady, by the way?
Yes, yeah, he has a lot of heal.
What a brutal card against Mike's strategy. And actually, there's a field blower by Mike before Zach can do anything with that Rough Seas afterwards. So Mike gets that one use out of it and then decides to get that card out of the field. It's potentially too good for Zach to have in play.
Well, Michael is going to have to continue with the Shadow Stitching if he wants to try to keep Zachary out of the game from the Octillery's Abyssal hand, just drawing right back into it. So we may just see 40 damage come into play, and that plays right into Pokemon Center Lady.
Yeah, I mean, Mike thinks he's safe because the Rough Seas is gone and Zach's only got a 2-card hand. He still wants the Shadow Stitching because he wants to stop the Abyssal hand from taking over the game. It makes sense. It's a play that makes sense for Michael. And he agrees as he just deals 40 damage with Shadow Stitching. He may just be getting the bad news right now. And actually, a Versus Seeker just gives Zachary even more options.
Yeah, he can use Pokemon Center Lady this turn and knock out the Starmie. And then in the following turn, he has that Via Seeker to use a Guzma and win the game here. So if Michael doesn't have an N, he's going to be out of this.
Well, what he can do right now is he can Guzma right now and make sure that he gets the prize before it gets... Well, I guess he doesn't mind because he will be seeing a Greninja no matter what. So yeah, you're absolutely right. He can definitely Pokemon Center Lady this turn. I would prefer to see that over a Guzma on this turn.
Yeah, it looks like he does have a difficult choice ahead of himself here. It's always nice to play this Aqua Patch down. If you do get N to 1, you don't want to see that card. So he wants to get that out of his hands.
Looks like the Versus Seeker is going to be the play that he makes.
Yeah, I mean, this play is also great, too. His Alolan Ninetales is never going to get knocked out next turn, and he knows that he's always going to have that Starmie available to knock out whenever he wants. Due to the Rough Seas not being down, he can snipe that off in the following turn. He really just needed to have 2 energies so that he can use his Ice Blade. So he is going to leave that available to himself, gets his last one more prize to win the game here, and he's got the knockout lined up on a Starmie.
It seems to be checkmate for Michael no matter what he does. I think Michael's out of options at this point. Michael agrees as he scoops up his cards, and game 1 goes to Zachary Bokhari as he goes up 1-0 against Michael Long in the Senior Division Finals at the World Championships.
Yeah, I mean, the MVP there, he didn't do anything. It was the Giratina promo, but that was really good.
What a silent MVP to have. It literally just stayed there. It never moved out of... From when the setup happened,
yep.
From when they flipped over the cards to now, that card was likely never even touched, but it was still the MVP.
Yeah, Michael is going to continue the same strategy that he had. He just really needs some help from the Giratina promo and the prize cards or something. It's so hard when you take away Giant Water Shuriken to get these knockouts on a card like an Alolan Ninetales. 210 hit points is a difficult number for you to continue to hit if you aren't able to add extra damage onto the board.
I mean, we saw how powerful the Greninja Break deck was even without its Giant Water Shuriken. Add the Giant Water Shuriken and you can understand why Michael's won 2 international championships and he's in the finals of the World Championships. It's a powerful deck, but there's a powerful counter to that deck, and it just so happens that Zachary has that card in his deck.
Yeah, and I mean, props to him. He knew that this would be a matchup that he'd have to face. Did a little research and saw that this is the deck that won the North American Internationals, and he's likely going to see it in the World Championships.
Little did he know he'd see it in the finals of the World Championships. Just how he wrote it up. Just how he drew it up anyway. So here we go. Does he have the the Giratina in his hand? No, he does not. So that's one thing going for him. All right, looks like a mulligan here from Michael Long.
Yeah, this is something where you see a
Some
lot.
prizes being laid down by Zachary. Will he avoid the Giratina being prized one more time? It seems like he does.
That's honestly one of the biggest pieces of this matchup. He just needs to avoid that card being in his prizes. His hand is not very great, it looks like, but he will have a supporter for the turn so that he can potentially find that Giratina early.
Yeah, all he has to do is hope his deck runs normally.
Yeah, just
he
okay,
doesn't
okay would be great.
Yeah, at this point, he doesn't even hope for something, you know, miraculous like a turn 1 Ninetales or anything, you know, turn 2 Ninetales or anything like that. He's hoping for just give me supporters and give me Ultra Balls.
Oh, actually, he did not find
no
a
supporter. Yeah. Well, here for Michael, we see a Starmie and we see a Froakie.
Yeah, we might want to take another look over at Zachary's hand because he has nothing going on for him now.
Right. I definitely just got another look at it, and he definitely doesn't have a supporter in there. Michael, though, doesn't know that. Does he have access to an N? He does have an N in his hand.
Yeah, but he might just play this slow the same way that he did last game. As long as
crucial card, but
that's not the one he wants though. He has 3 via Seeker.
Okay, so it's a big time top deck, but
I don't know.
Okay, so one thing you can do if you're Zachary is just pass with the Sycamore in hand. Normally, I don't recommend doing that, but in this particular case, Michael can very well still play the end. He may be forced to.
Oh, I think he does it. Yeah. Oh, no.
All right. Well, that's a lot of resources that just hit the discard pile here for
Michael said, no way. Let me see that.
You see the reaction from Michael there and Zachary himself. They both know that it was a big Sycamore, but calculate a risk.
Yeah, I mean, this drew him into everything that he needed. He's got the Floatstone for his Remoraid. This means that he has access to Beacon. He's got another supporter for himself, and he's got an Ultra Ball, so he's going to be able to get everything he needs, meaning Giratina promo is likely going to hit the board on the second turn. Just not going to be using those Guzmas like he was last game.
Yeah, that's for sure. This is going to be a very different game based on what happened on this first turn. Very, very different game. But as crazy as it sounds, it's still nowhere near out of Zachary's reach. That's just how powerful this deck is against Greninja, as even with all these resources discarded, he is still very much in this game.
Well, this is Zachary's first search, so seeing that Giratina promo probably lights him up inside, says, all right, the Via Seekers was bad, but at least we've got you.
I would probably even beacon for it right now.
He's got the Ultra Ball for it, so he can grab that later if he wants to. I think it's very important that he at least gets the Octillery.
Sure, I mean, the Octillery
But the
is
other card,
one.
yeah, he can pick what he chooses there.
I think I would beacon for it just to force my opponent into an end play. That kind of a play. But he goes for the Tapu Koko. And plus, you demoralize Michael if you show him the Giratina right
show him,
away.
hey, it's going to be a long game.
There is a lot to be said for demoralizing your opponent.
Well, Michael is now going to get into his second turn. He's got the Frogadier. He's got a Splash Energy, so exactly what he wants.
That does explain why there was no N played.
And he's got a Greninja in his hand, I believe, so he may not use the N either. And yeah, he's just going to use the Water Duplicates again. I believe he doesn't have any Frogadiers in the prizes this time around, though, so might be a couple more Greninjas for Zachary to have to go through.
Yeah, there was only a Froakie and a Starmie in the prizes for Michael, so he'll definitely be getting all 3 Frogadiers into play. And, well, all 4 Frogadiers into play by the end of this turn. Meanwhile, Zachary still lamenting his discarded goods here. All those riches. He could have had an embarrassment of him, but instead he's just feeling pretty embarrassed after having to use that Sycamore.
Well, he does have that Tapu Koko in his hands. The retreat cost on the Vulpix isn't that bad, so a double colorless energy would be great for him. He'd be able to use that Tapu Koko, flying flip, spread damage, and get himself right back where he was in the opening game. where he had all of these Greninjas and potential Greninja breaks lined up to be knocked out by an Alolan Ninetales.
Yeah, that Tapu Lele was also a pretty nice card for him to draw here, as it ensures that he's, well, maybe not, as he may be Ultra Balling it away, but it did ensure that he would have access to whatever supporter he'd like. But instead, he believes that the N is the correct supporter anyways, so he's going to discard it away with the Ultra Ball, and he'll likely be finding the Giratina at this point.
Yeah, well, he doesn't need to worry about the Giratina just yet. That's still 2 turns away.
That's a lot of faith in your feature draws.
Yeah.
A lot of faith.
Well, he's got his Octillery as well, so he can find a lot of good cards in his deck. So the reason I'm saying this is because there is always that potential of you just not drawing very well off of whatever hand you have at the end of the turn, and if your opponent decides to go for a play where he just starts attacking you down and locking down your abilities, plus using his giant water shurikens, then he may slow you down from getting that Giratina for a couple of turns. I'm just saying, if I'm Zachary, I'm playing it as safe as I possibly can. Yeah. Well, Zachary looked at his discard pile, and although there's a lot of discarded items there, he had no water energies in there, so his Aqua Patch wasn't going to do anything for him. He would have liked to accelerate some energies, but now, yeah, he's probably going to be looking for just a supporter, and that Giratina promo would be great for him. Does find Ultra Ball. Zachary has a double colorless energy in his hand, so that means that he will be ready to use Blizzard Edge in the coming turns. And he's thinking about the Ultra Ball now. But yeah, he might just hold on to it as well, too. It doesn't matter until next turn. Next turn is when he needs to have that on his bench.
All right. Michael Long gets his first Greninja in play. Still contemplating his plays here with that Ultra Ball.
No supporter card over on Michael's side. He does have a Greninja Break and an Ultra Ball. He can continue to get more Greninja onto the board, but he's going to be kind of stuck there from that point on. He has one more Splash Energy, so he can have access to Moonlight Slash in the coming turns if he wants to start putting some damage onto the Alolan Ninetales, but he's going to need to find a little bit more if he wants to keep up some pressure.
Yeah, this is a great short-term hand, but in the long run, it definitely doesn't have all the resources it needs, and it's going to need a lot of help in the next coming turns. But in the meantime, he goes for an Ultra Ball, probably finds himself another Greninja here. And then, like you said, he still has the Greninja Break in his hand. He has plenty of things that he can still do, but the problem is going to be in 2 turns from now. What's he going to do in order to keep this pressure going?
I like the evolution on the damaged Frogadier. He needs to be wary of the Tapu Koko damage. He'd be able to get that spread off, not only getting all of the potential Greninja breaks into range, but he'd also be able to knock out that Frogadier. So being wary of that and evolving here is pretty key play by Michael.
Yeah, and on top of that, you also take away an easy prize from Ice Blade, things like that. Just an overall good play here onto that damaged Frogadier. And now Michael's still contemplating what to do. It really is not that easy. Forced to just Moonlight Slash here for 60.
Yep, he wants to keep that Splash Energy on just because he doesn't have the Greninja Break. That means he doesn't have that extra hit points. So the 130 hit points can be knocked out right now by the double colorless energy on the Alolan Ninetales. And he needs to get those pieces back into his hand. He wants to have access to that Greninja. He has the Froakie on his bench, which means another Frogadier can come into play, and he has an open bench space to play that Froakie down.
All right, looks like an Ultra Ball here from Zachary is going to be how he starts his own turn.
Well, it was that last card there. That would have been scary if he looked through the deck and didn't see it there, and it was just sitting over there.
All right, so Zachary does find that Giratina finally.
Michael gives the nod of approval. Says, yeah, I kind of figured.
At this point, I would have been hoping it was prize, just silently crossing my fingers and eventually got the bad news as Zachary does find that Giratina with his Ultra Ball and plays it onto the bench in its comfortable spot that it was located in the previous game. And I mean, honestly, at this point, things are starting to look up for Zachary, and it's Michael Long that's starting to have to look uphill and see that long journey ahead in order for him to try to take this this match.
Yeah, Zachary, on the Abyssal hand, he drew into an N and another Aqua Patch. He saw that Michael only had 2 cards in his hand, and he didn't want to mess with him potentially having a poor draw. So he chose not to use the N here.
Of Greninjas, as we see 2 Greninjas and the Greninja break come into play.
Yeah, we expected this, though. I mean, he just uses Splash Energy. All these Pokemon coming down on the board. The key here is, though, he doesn't have anything else left in his hand. Just this Splash Energy, and he has to bounce it back even just to get some pretty good damage onto the Alolan Ninetales.
140 damage onto the Alolan Ninetales already. Only has 70 hit points remaining.
Now it's key here for Zachary not to use that N, but he would lose a lot of resources in the process. He has 2 Aqua Patch and no water energies in his discard pile. So maybe he does a quirky play with his Pokemon Center lady and uses Ice Blade, or maybe he pushes all the damage with his GX attack this turn and just tries to stay clear.
Zachary's just had a couple of uncomfortable hands here, and this one is no different from the opening one. Just resources you do not want to get rid of. You've already wasted so many before with the Sycamore discarding the triple Versus Seeker and double Rough Seas, and now at this point Zachary forced to have another key moment.
Yeah, I think this is the safest play for himself. He's able to take away a Greninja break that doesn't have a Splash Energy, push all of the damage over, and now his Alolan Ninetales is clean. And hopefully for him, Michael doesn't draw into any supporter, and it looks like he didn't find anything.
Zachary showcasing the power of the GX attacks as he takes full advantage of his one-time GX attack in order to knock out Michael Long's Greninja there and keep his Alolan Ninetales at 0 damage. That's 2 turns worth of damage that he just shook off.
And wow, Michael had to play his entire hand there just to get this damage on. 110 damage, bouncing the Splash Energy back into his hand. And I think that this Pokemon Center lady might really hurt him here. Once he sees this, he knows that this Alolan Ninetales still won't be knocked out.
If Zachary hadn't gotten the good news about Michael's hand yet, he definitely did after Michael played it all down. And it looks like Michael's about to get the bad news about the Pokemon Center lady here, as it seems to be by far the best play Zachary can make.
Yeah, he can make sure that there's no way that this Alolan Ninetales falls in the coming turn. And this is pretty demoralizing for Michael. He's going to be losing another Greninja here that doesn't have a Splash Energy. He needed to have the Splash Energy so that he can attack next turn. So had to bounce it back into his hand.
You see that nod from Michael as Zachary does play that Pokemon Center lady.
Yeah, there was a little bit of life for Michael. If he was able to find an N into a Choice Band, he would have been able to get a knockout.
Another bad card here for Michael. Time is running out on Michael Long's tournament. He is down 1-0 against Zachary Bokhari, and more importantly, Zachary's field is just absolutely crushing Michael's here, as Michael just struggles to get any type of supporter card, and at this point is forced to just play that Splash Energy one more time onto this Greninja, onto this new Greninja, and I mean, your Greninja just has 130 hit points. It's such a poor situation when your opponent can play a supporter, take away most of the damage that you dealt, and leave you without another one of your main stage 2 evolution lines. These are hard enough to get into play to begin with, let alone losing them turn after turn. And sure enough, that's all Michael can do is just deal another 80 damage this time around because he has no Choice Band. And just pass the turn as Zachary Bokhari has access to all the items, all the things that he really needs here, besides an energy card, I believe.
Yeah, I think that almost spells game over here for Michael. If he used Moonlight Slash and decided to only do 60 damage, he'd keep the Greninja back into his hand after the Splash Energy's effect, and then potentially could have found a supporter card, getting him to the Choice Band, which would have ended up in a knockout on the Alolan Ninetales. Right now, he's going to lose another Greninja piece if this Alolan Ninetales uses Blizzard Edge here, and that's just asking for so many cards now, being that you've already seen all these Greninjas hit the discard pile.
All right. Ultra Ball just finding Sudowoodo. I think he's finding it in order to get rid of it with a Sycamore. Floatstone comes down onto the Giratina, and there is that Sycamore. 7 new cards. Will he find the energy to knock out this Greninja?
And yes, he does.
Sure enough, there it is. Nice and light blue, just like he remembers it. Zachary Bokhari looks at that water energy, decides to attach it to the active Alolan Ninetales wisely. And it seems like we're going to see one more Greninja knockout by the end of this turn.
Yeah, Michael just wants to look over what all is gone here. You've thrown away so many resources because of just the way that you've drawn this game. Is there something that I can take advantage of here potentially? And it seems unlikely, being that Burning Shadows brought us so many cards that can get you out of the active spot. So stalling a Pokemon in the active spot is very difficult.
Giratina making these Greninjas play nice, taking away their Shurikens, and Greninja not happy about it as it cannot muster up any type of offense. We only have a dive ball here. That dive ball going to be finding, well, what'll it find? Just a Frogadier?
Oh, he can get a Greninja. He's not knocked out right now because the Ninetales doesn't have enough energy. So he can bring that up, and I mean, at least it has a lot of hit points, but he has a lot of cards in his deck that could bail him out here. He has 2 teammates. He has a lot more supporters left. He just hasn't been able to find them, drawing pretty awkwardly here in the finals.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he just has not been able to find anything whatsoever, and at least he gets a knockout here as that Alolan Ninetales, having done quite a bit of work, does finally go down, and Michael Long takes 2 out of the 6 prizes he needs to take in order to take this game.
Well, Zachary finally gets to use an Aqua Patch. He had to throw away the last few, but that is going to give him an energy, meaning that he only needs to find 1 more energy if he wants to start putting some more damage onto Michael's side of the board. And he's just going to throw away more resources. He's never going to use a Guzma this game. He's just thrown them all away along with all those VS Seekers.
Really,
and he does find the Aqua Patch, though.
That Aqua Patch.
That's the last one in his deck, and he was able to find it a perfect moment. Hasn't attached for the turn either yet, so he can attach to his Alolan Ninetales and remove this Greninja off the board. And I don't think Michael has any left in his deck at this point.
And now a double colorless on top of things.
That is perfect. He has enough energy now to have a Blizzard Edge in the following turn. Everything is going Zachary's way.
Yeah, that double colorless actually was a much more important draw than people realize. As you now get to discard the double colorless, still leave 2 energy on your hand, on your field, which means you're only 1 energy away from winning this match.
Do you believe in Bubble?
I believe in Bubble. I always believe in Bubble when when the game is on the line.
All the Guzmas are gone. I don't. If he could bubble his way out of the deck.
How many cards do you think are left in there?
Oh, he's got 3.
We have 3.
Uh-oh.
Triple bubble. See ya, teammates. Michael.
Oh, Zachary's getting scared now. He's looking in his deck to see how many ends do I have? Can I save myself here?
Well,
if these bubbles do happen, he might just be stuck in the active spot.
I want to take a look at Zachary's hand. Does he have an answer to this bubble? I mean, we saw the Versus Seekers get discarded. Is this the story this game's going to tell us? All these Versus Seekers going down into the discard pile at the beginning of the game. We knew it was going to be important. We just didn't know in what sense.
Well, Michael is going to take a look just to see if there is an N available for Zachary. It'd be a way for him to shuffle his hand back into his deck after he draws his entire deck here. And the fact that he only has 1 prize left means that N would buy him a lot more turns. We'd have to see maybe 10 bubbles for that to end the game here.
Potentially so. But if Zachary doesn't have the N in his hand, and or if they're prized or whatnot, so it looks like there are 3 Ns in the discard pile, and we know that there's at the very least 3 Versus Seekers. I believe there's actually the full 4 Versus Seekers in the discard pile, though.
Yeah, Michael is setting up a play here where he removes the float stones, and then if this bubble head hits...
Bubble!
Got it!
Big time heads here as Alolan Ninetales is paralyzed. Not asleep, but paralyzed. 2 more of these to go. Remember, we know for a fact there are 4 Versus Seekers and 3 Ns in the discard pile.
Michael, I believe he put a Guzma into his hand so that he can lock up whatever Pokemon has the most retreat cost on Zachary's side. And if Zachary isn't able to remove that Pokemon from the active spot and attack with his Alolan Ninetales, I think Michael found a way to win this game.
Did Michael do it? Kyle.
Those would be a Seekers, man.
I can't believe my eyes. We're looking at the double colorless energies here. I believe at least a couple of them are in the discard.
It looks like 3 are in the discard.
All
No, 4.
Uh-oh. All 4 are in the discard. How many float stones does he play? 2 float stones.
They're both
float
in the
stones are in the discard. All 4 double colorless, both float stones in the discard. 3 versus Seekers or 4 versus Seekers and 3 ends all in the discard pile.
Oh.
This could not be worse for Zachary Bokhari. All that has to happen is a few more flips to go Michael's way.
I think this Guzma might be able to just get him there, honestly.
Very well could.
Yeah.
Does Michael remember Zachary's deck list? It seems like he
promotes
does.
the Giratina.
That Giratina.
It's going to just keep bubbling it. You can't retreat if you're paralyzed. Got
Bubble
it.
heads.
Oh, my goodness.
1 card left. 3 water energy in Zachary's hand, though.
He's just going to attach and pass the turn here.
1 more. This bubble is going to be very important here for Michael.
Well, Giratina does have that 2 retreat cost, so he'd have to have access to another energy if he wants to get a knockout here with his Alolan Ninetales, so that actually just might be it.
Well, he still has 1 end, doesn't he? Oh, no, he only plays 3 end.
Bubble.
He literally has no way to get any cards left in his discard pile into his deck.
Yeah, I think Zachary notes this as well. Now we see a dive ball. Just gonna grab another Froakie, the MVP of this game.
Oh my goodness. You asked if I believe. Did Michael believe? That was the real question. And the answer was yes. Michael believed, and he hit the most crucial paralysis flip of his entire life.
Yeah.
All right.
Might as well keep going. Nope.
This time it's a tails. Does Zachary have what it takes? It does not seem so as Zachary scoops up his cards. Michael Long takes this second game in what surprised literally every person in this arena.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe that he was able to pull off that game. And that's what you need to do if you want to become the world champion. You have to see those lines, and he did.
I'm speechless, Kyle. I can't believe what we just saw. The tale was told literally from the very first turn of the game as we saw the Sycamore discard 3 of the 4 versus Seekers in Zachary's deck.
Wow.
It didn't look like it was going to be all that important. Zachary was just dominating that entire game from start to finish. But at the end of the day, Michael acknowledged that there was very few cards remaining in Zachary's deck, and he found the one way for him to win. He needed to hit a crucial bubble flip, and he did. And from that point on, it was academic.
I mean, Michael is on cloud 9 now. That was everything that he needed. He's back in this game. And just imagine, what if Giratina promos priced this game? I mean, there's so much life that can flow right back into Michael and get himself there. The question now is Zachary's mentality. Can he come back from a game like that? He was in complete control. He was 1 prize card away from winning the World Championship. Now he has to play another game. He has 20 minutes here to get himself this championship.
Michael Long just pulling off what can only be considered to be one of the greatest upsets that I have ever seen in this Pokemon trading card game. He is 1 game away from winning the Senior Division World Championship. But keep in mind, Zachary Bokhari is still the favorite. Zachary still has the matchup advantage. It's just, once you've lost 1 game, you can very easily lose the other.
Oh, we're going to keep a close eye on the opening hands and the prize cards. We're looking for
Zachary,
Giratina.
there's that Giratina
he starts
right away.
with it.
Giratina right in the opening hand.
That is exactly what he wants to see.
The prize cards matter much less once you already know the good news.
Yep, he can work with that. He does have his Bridget in the prize cards, however, though. Oh my goodness.
Double Frogadier.
Wow.
Oh. You hate to see that happen after such a hard-fought victory in Game 2.
Oh, the bad news is going to come right to Michael. Not only does he see the Giratina promo starting for Zachary here, the Tapu Koko is the best Pokemon for him to start with that free retreat access, and he has Ultra Ball throwing away supporter cards. You know Zachary is going to get the exact start he needs, and you can't have Zachary starting like that if you want to win a game here.
This is the actual perfect start here for Zachary. I can't imagine a better start if I'm a Zachary Bokhari fan. And Michael Long has yet to find out the bad news for his own side. Frogadier is easily the worst prize you can have in this deck. Having even one prized is awful for you. Having two prized, it's almost impossible to come back from.
Yeah, I know a lot of players that when they do that opening search, if they see a couple of their Frogadiers in the prizes, they might just scoop up. But
yeah,
you can't
really
do that in
bad.
Game 3.
It really is that bad. But obviously, this is Game 3 of the finals. Nothing to lose. Michael's going to play his heart out, just like he did in Game 2. We counted him out one game. We cannot count him out again. We cannot make that same mistake again.
Yep, using Professor Sycamore here is going to find himself 7 cards, able to continue to build onto this board, finds another Alolan Vulpix, finds energy cards in a fantastic spot here.
Alolan Vulpix gets an energy attached to it.
Would have liked to see a Remoraid. Unfortunately, wasn't able to find that. But overall, that's a 9 out of 10 start, I'd say.
9.5 out of 10. I'll one-up you there. All right, dive ball here by Michael.
Oh, this
here
search is going to be heartbreaking.
I hate to see.
He says, where are you?
A heartbreak, but this is about
he
to
said,
happen.
no way.
No! That reaction says it all.
The top card was his Frogadier, and that's the only one.
Oh, that is heartbreaking. The whole crowd knew it. It was Michael who was literally the last one to find out.
I mean, it's hard not to wear that emotion when you see that. You know that you're going to need everything to go your way if you want to win this game here. And wow, just...
Have you ever had that feeling that everyone's in on a joke except for you? Yeah. That's exactly how Michael felt when he realized that happened. All
Bubble
right,
is his best friend.
Why not? Bubble.
If he can get 50 more of those and Zachary forgets what N does.
Let's go for 200 of them. Let's play past that N. Lots of joy coming out of these Pokemon trading card game fans here as Tapu Koko does get flipped to the correct position for paralysis. It was not asleep. And that's the end of Zachary's turn here. So Zachary takes a fast one. All right, well.
Well, Michael does have Frogadier in his hand, but that duplicate is going to be...
Zachary's about to get the good news here.
Yeah.
I mean, of course he's still duplicate, but man.
Yeah, you need to get it out, but that's not much.
No, not at all, especially when your opponent's already building up an Alolan Vulpix. This was starting to feel like it was going to turn into a classic match, like one for the ages.
Hey, I'm not giving up yet. After seeing Michael pull out Game 2, anything can happen.
Anything can indeed happen, but just think about how difficult this victory is going to be for Michael to achieve.
I want to see Zachary's face here when he sees just one.
I want to see Michael just keep squeezing these cards. Hopefully, one was stuck behind a card for him. That's all he's really hoping for.
Yeah, with every shuffle of the deck, there just sees. Oh, that's
right.
okay.
Nice little solemn nod there. All right, so just one, huh? Got it.
No, Zachary, he may nod that Michael has them in his hand, but we
no,
have the bad news.
That, like, he would have evolved that Froakie too, you know?
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, he does probably have all the news there.
Tapu Lele, wonder tagging.
Yep, really just needs to find himself a supporter card to get him into the Alolan Ninetales GX. He has the double colorless energy in his hand, which means that he will be able to knock out this Frogadier and really start putting a lot of pressure on Michael. Michael wasn't even able to find a splash energy to keep this Frogadier in play. So really, everything's starting to point towards Zachary if he's able to find an Ultra Ball or this Alolan Ninetales.
Absolutely right about that. Tapu Lele tags in that Sycamore.
Yep, and he's going to
Double
commit.
colorless energy onto that Vulpix. Fourth energy on it. Considering the rough seas.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts him here. Just go for it.
All right, Sycamore for 7. Do we see that Alolan Ninetales GX? Only card that matters right now.
Yep.
He finds it right away.
If he didn't find that, we could have been in for a world of hurt. If a Greninja and a Guzma was played down, you could have taken away all those energies off the board. But no, Zachary able to find it, and he's going to continue to keep all the pressure on Michael.
He did commit to it early on before he saw his 7-card hand from the Sycamore, but now he gets to reap the rewards as he'll be able to knock out this Frogadier this turn if he chooses to. Blizzard edging it for 160 damage.
Even able to find a Remoraid here to find Octillery. He's going to be able to continue to have all these cards in his hands, and this is looking like Zachary's game.
Sure enough, Blizzard Edge knocking out this Frogadier. 1 prize taken for Zachary, but more importantly, that's 50% of the Frogadiers in play for Michael. Gone, right, just like that.
Yeah, Michael's got a tough choice ahead of him. He can either use his Frogadier, try to evolve into Greninja and start getting damage on board, or he can try to buy himself some time with Froakie again.
Well, when all else fails. All right, Greninja.
Yeah, I think you got to just start attacking. He'd like to find a Field Blower. If he's able to remove the Rough Seas, maybe he can start to stick some damage onto the Alolan Ninetales. Is going to be able to Super Rod back in the Greninja and the Froakie, or the Frogadier and the Froakie. So getting some of those cards back into his deck, and now it's up to one of these 3 Sycamores. He can pick whichever one to find him the cards that he needs now.
Well,
and oh no, he
looks like he doesn't find anything.
He drew Rescue Stretcher after putting his Pokemon back in with Super Rod. That's never
always
good.
Awkward. All right, so Greninja Break will be hitting the discard pile with the Ultra Ball. 1 more card has to be discarded. Chooses a Water Energy.
Yep, probably going to find that Frogadier again. Has to just continue to get out these Greninjas.
This deck definitely looks a lot weaker when you only have access to 2 Frogadiers in a game. Zachary Bokhari, game 3 is yours. You can do it. All right.
Well, Michael is going to continue to put on as much pressure as he can, but his hand just didn't really give him very much. He could just use Moonlight Slash here, try to get 80 damage, which would return be 50. Then it's just a lot of work that you need to put in here. Not even going to have a Froakie to potentially get a Frogadier back after Rescue Stretcher. So all the pieces of the Greninja puzzle that we usually see in play are all just washed away.
Michael trying to find out what he can do here. Just deals 80 damage with Moonlight Slash. Deals the maximum amount of damage you can deal to that Alolan Ninetales, but we see with Rough Seas just how little impact that actually is. And that's as strong as this Greninja deck can really get at this point in this match. That's how difficult this is. Even if he had access to all 4 Frogadiers, it would still be such a difficult uphill battle for him.
Yeah, Zachary able to bring down the damage on his Alolan Ninetales down to 50. Has cards like the Ultra Ball and some Water Energies, so he can get access to those Aqua Patches for himself. Interesting that I think he has a Choice Band in his hand that I'd like to see him discard there. He's never really going to use that. But he does have a lot of options. Once this Octillery gets into play, he's going to be able to draw into a lot of great cards for himself.
Ultra Ball potentially finding that Octillery.
Yeah, having the Choice Band as a card that he can play means that Octillery can draw him a few extra cards. So maybe that's what he's going to be looking to do here.
You know, normally this finals would have been hard mode for Michael. This is actually like just unbelievably like insane mode when it comes to difficulty levels. That's how difficult this is when you have access to only 2 Frogadiers in an entire match. You need to start taking prizes, but it's so hard to do when all you can deal is 80 damage.
Looking for double colorless, does find it. Wow.
Finds a double colorless. One more time, why not?
Able to save those energies on his Alolan Ninetales, and that is just perfect for Zachary. Takes away this Greninja,
only
and Michael only has Frogadier.
Doesn't even have access to the bubble anymore. All right, Field Blower gets rid of the Rough Seas and a Floatstone. All right, Rescue Stretcher potentially being played here. Rescue Stretcher could find a Froakie.
Yeah.
I see an out. Instead, it finds the Greninja.
Yeah, I think he just has to bank on using N here and hoping that Zachary never finds an energy card for the rest of his days. Because if he does, he's going to be able to take the knockout on this Greninja.
That's not asking for much. That's...
Well, when your opponent has Octillery and I don't know, a lot of energies.
Oh, man. Such a difficult matchup here for Michael. He draws 6 cards off his
Hey,
hand.
didn't
Zachary
find an
only gets
energy
4.
though.
Zachary only gets 4, and neither of them are energies.
If Michael has a choice band, he'd be able to start putting relevant damage down with shadow stitching, which would be nice. He definitely has to use that attack so that he can stop the artillery from potentially finding any energy card. So Michael is going to play to all of his outs, also getting the level ball for the Froakie so that he doesn't get benched out in the following turn also.
All right.
Does have that choice band.
Choice band's really nice here.
And we will see the shadow stitching. It's gonna put the Ninetales up to 120, and wow.
Oh.
I mean,
I blink and I see a double colorless. Oh, jeez.
if you don't want to play fair, then we won't play fair, Zachary. That is just perfect.
I have no idea what Zachary's morning routine was, but I want to copy it.
That is the way to become a world champion. Zachary does have an N in his hand, is contemplating that. Also wants to, he has a float stone, so he might want to hold on to that to make sure that the antics of last game never happen again.
All right, another Greninja going down to the lone survivor. Froakie, you pulled it off once. Can you do it again?
Oh, Michael does have an energy card, so he can use Bubble. He does have an N also, so he can start to take some cards out of Zachary's hand. But no matter what, Zachary will have access to the Abyssal hand. So cards are going to flow right back into Zachary's hand. And generally, that's how you start to see cards like Pokemon Center Lady, cards like Guzma, which would just be huge.
Here it goes. Another heads here by the bubble. I don't know what that Froakie's been drinking. I want some of that.
Oh, well, I don't see anything that gets him out of paralysis right here. Yeah, just going to say, all right.
Unbelievable.
You bought your turn.
How many turns has that Froakie bought, Michael, throughout this match? A Frogadier evolution on the bench. That really was the only play Michael had available to him. Another bubble. Oh, a miss here by Froakie. Oh, man. How dare Froakie miss?
Zachary's going to be thinking about a Floatstone on his Giratina. And no, it looks like he just wants to use the N. And I mean, he really is pretty shook up after game 2. He just wants to make sure that it never happens again.
Yeah, no kidding. He'll discard any card before he discards a Floatstone in this game.
I can't blame him. Zachary is going to be looking to find an energy card here. He also has a Abyssal hand to draw some more. So any playable cards here would be great. And even finds the double colorless energy. So that's pretty big for him here.
All right. Abyssal hand, finding him a couple of cards. No energies. Oh, there is the double colorless energy, though. You're right.
Yeah, he found a Floatstone there also. He would have liked to find maybe Rough Seas to heal off some of this damage, potentially not being knocked out by a Greninja Choice Band Moonlight Slash. But yeah, he's just going to use his GX, be safe as possible, and I can't blame him.
Oh, no, not at all. We've seen how Ice Path GX has just been backbreaking in these games against Michael. All 3 games that Ice Path has just done so much work against them. And also, here's a Greninja.
Very wisely didn't play the double colorless energy because then he opens up a Jirachi, taking away that energy from him. Just wants to hold on to all of his resources.
This may very well be the last Greninja of this match. Will this Greninja be able to take Michael all the way?
Oh, Michael's reading Starmie saying, will your attack help me?
Zachary's deck significantly larger this time than game 2. So that option is no longer available.
Just going to look through, try to find anything that can save him here. The problem is Zachary hasn't had to use many cards in order to get to this dominating position. He has so many resources left.
Potentially going for the Staryu and turning his back on the Froakie that's helped him so much. Nope. Froakie till the end. It's close.
Well, nonetheless, he's going to have to start picking up the pace here. If he wants to get any of these prize cards to start to combat what Zachary's done, he's running out of time. We only have 6.5 minutes left on the clock.
Finds the Froakie. You know, I'm with this play. I think you stick it out with Froakie till the end. An end here by Michael. Shuffles both players' hands back into their decks. They draw cards equal to the amount of prize cards they have remaining. Michael gets 6, Zachary gets 2. Usually the best comeback card that you can play in a situation like this, but even that card cannot help you out all that much if you're in Michael's seat, as your opponent has an Octillery with Abyssal Hand as its ability to draw Zachary even more cards. But right away we see a Water Energy in Zachary's hand, which is about as crucial as you can get when it comes.
He was able to find 2 cards that are instantly playable for himself here.
Right.
Even if Shadow Stitching does occur, he has the knockout here on this Greninja, and we might have another bubble party.
Just one more. All right, he does go with the Shadow Stitching. Well, there's another energy, just in case the first one wasn't enough.
And that's exactly what he wants. He's gonna just take this knockout here on Greninja. 1 prize remains from being the world champion in the senior division.
All right, well, if there's one Pokemon that can pull this off, we know which one it is.
Do you know how many cards are left in Zachary's deck?
I have a very good idea of how many cards are left in Zachary's deck. I am not taking back what I said. If there's one Pokemon that can pull this off, we know which one it is.
Well, Dive Ball is going to be the choice here for Michael. Might be able to set up a Greninja on the bench, but I mean, are all the Frogadiers in the discard pile at this point?
I believe so. I don't remember him shuffling any back in the last couple of turns.
Staryu is
There's one Frogadier.
pretty dangerous. 2. He can't even play that onto the bench or else it can get sniped.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it might put it into your hand just so you don't draw into it, but definitely don't.
He might not be benching it.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Yeah. The Dive Ball could just be bringing it back into his hand. Looks like he just did bench it, though, so. All right.
Well, he's going to hope the paralysis.
Power of Bubble. I believe in the power of Bubble, too.
Well, if he gets Tails, this is going to be the game.
Bubble. Big heads.
Wow.
Why not?
And look at the crowd.
Froakie with that round of applause, and it rightfully
If he can
so,
find a
as it deserves
Guzma,
it.
he can win this game, though.
He does not find it yet. So it looks like we might have to see well, we could see an end.
Yeah, Pokemon Center Lady would have also done it for him. He would have been able to heal out of that and snipe off the Staryu that's on the bench there. Instead, Zachary just going to try to thin out his deck a little bit, get these cards out of his hand so that potentially he can draw into something with Abyssal on the following turn here. Does have the energy card so that he can take a big knockout to win the World Championship if he is not affected by paralysis.
Probably forced to pass here, though. Michael's Froakie doing what it can. The one-man army himself.
Well, Starmie's down.
All right. That easy knockout option is completely gone now.
Have you ever used Starfreeze? Because I have not.
I actually have, but I'm not going to say how well that game went for me.
Well,
because it definitely didn't go very well.
It's just a super bubble here. It would be able to do some damage along with the paralysis.
All right.
Michael needs another flip.
One more bubble. Tails.
Oh!
This is going to be the end of the match, but well played by both players. Well played by that Froakie. It did what it could. Michael did what he could. But at the end of the day, Zachary Bokhari came out victorious and became your senior division world champion.
Amazing series from both these players. Fantastic job. I can't believe that Michael was able to pull out that game too, but Zachary, he stood strong and he was able to come out as your champion.